Today, I have with me Joel Kraut, and he is a real estate investor, lender, developer, author, and entrepreneur who has purchased, renovated, and managed hundreds of properties while funding more than 1,000 investment loans. But what interested me the most wasn't the volume, it was the perspective. He's seen booming markets, he's survived collapsing markets. He's been both the borrower and the lender. Today, we're talking a little bit less about finding the next deal and more about developing the mindset and strategy that allows investors to build wealth over decades instead of chasing quick wins. Welcome to the show, Joel.
Thank you very much for having me on, Amy.
So, I think a lot of people think success in real estate comes from finding the perfect property. However, I understand you believe it starts much earlier with how someone thinks. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, after a really long time out on the road, I think people think about real estate in a very conventional manner, but I don't think the right manner, honestly. It has very little to do with the properties, and it has much more to do with the people. The worst experiences financially, emotionally, psychologically of my career were partnering with the wrong people. The properties, when you have a problem, they're honestly just a math equation, right? The math doesn't lie. You lose money. That's the truth, but you can exit. When you're partnering with the wrong people and your interests aren't aligned, it is very difficult. It's very emotionally taxing. It can be financially suicidal, as you can get stuck supporting what you thought were going to be two or three partners, which has happened to me in the past, decades ago. And the worst beats of my career have come from the partnerships. It hasn't been from the actual real estate. So for anyone out there starting out midstream, even as you think you have your portfolio together, constantly looking at who you're working with, who's around you, who you're learning from, and who you're willing to partner with. I can't stress enough how important it is to be thinking that through all the time and evaluating it. I'm not saying anybody's a bad person, but they might not be the right fit for you. And you have to think that through so that you have the opportunity to build long-term success, to be standing here for 30 years. And we want people to be successful. So sometimes helping them think a little differently than they already do is probably the single best thing we do. One of the things I learned from a friend of mine who runs a lot of businesses is one of the things he's great at is empowering the people he puts in management
Mhm.
roles. And, his concept, thought, idea, discipline, whatever you want to call it, is similar to Steve Jobs once I don't think it was an interview, but a speech or a conversation he had at MIT, which is online. They asked him about, like, what's the greatest thing you learned at your time at Apple? And I remember listening to that and thinking, wow, that seems so simple. And then I thought about, wow, how hard it is to do. And he was talking about the concept, look, you see a problem and you can easily go fix the problem. And I'm guilty of this.
Mhm.
But if you empower your team to fix the problem and they can get 80, 90% proficient, now you have people you can count on and you can keep growing. But if you go keep fixing all the problems, that's great, but it's going to limit what you can do because you're stuck, oh yeah, fixing all the problems. So, to your point about 4-hour work weeks, 4-hour days, if you're not going to empower the team, train and invest in that, you can never get there. It takes big leap of faith. It takes courage to do that because you're really dependent and putting your future in other people's hands. It's been hard for me at times to do that. That's the truth. But I see the most successful people that I interact with, that I meet, they do that. They do it well and they do it at a big scale. And that's the only way you can end up running a company with 500 successful people, 1,000 successful people, operate internationally, transport goods across country lines, interact with consumers directly, interact with intermediaries, value-added resellers. Like, to be able to pull that all together takes great skill. Is it a 4-hour work week because the person seems like they're out a lot? They're traveling a lot. They don't seem to be in that behind closed door meeting all the time. But it's amazing when they do go on vacation, how things slow down a little bit But when they're just kind of around as the coach, manager, leader of the band, whatever you want to call it, things seem to run smoother without anybody realizing it. And one of the things that I learned the hard way, look, I lost a lot of money really fast in the crash. And by the time I was done with divorce and the real estate, I'd lost like $4.2 million,
Mhm.
which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I was laying around for about 6 weeks feeling sorry for myself. One or two friends made some comments to me that were actually still my friends, which was amazing. And I started to realize that, look, yes, traumatic. Yes, horrible. Yes, all those things, but it didn't kill me. And the world changed so fast with the implosion of the financial community. I wasn't really the one that created that. I didn't really get stupid overnight. And if I could stay calm and see my way through, I could sort of get back into the fray and begin the process of healing. It took me, 6 weeks, 2 months to start to realize that. And at the time, my wife threatened to throw me out if I didn't go do something, get off the couch kind of thing. And I think for a lot of people, this fear, it's just not real. They're afraid of so many things that aren't really material or don't materialize. They don't give themselves a chance. And, they don't step to the plate for themselves. Like, I don't understand because, like, who else is going to do that for you? Nobody. Like, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, who are you going to invest in? To me, it's like one of the biggest challenges I see out there. People's perspective is just hard. They think, to your point, like they see something quick on television or on Instagram or on some social media platform. They think it's real automatically. They never assume, they never look at the possibility that it's not real. That, some of those HD TV shows where flip this, flip that, maybe they're actors and actresses because nobody really can build a house in 45 minutes. Well, like 44 net of commercials on an hour, right? They're renting properties from people like you, me, and others when they come to different towns to film. It's not really them building it. Very rarely is it them. And I feel like that does a disservice to a lot of people who want to get in our business because they're deluded into thinking it's easy or it's super cool or you never lose. It's because I know it's not really exciting and maybe not grabbing the headlines if you teach people the right way. It's not as glamorous. So maybe it won't turn as many people on and we can't sell as many courses, but maybe we're doing the right thing and teaching them the right way. Maybe there's a reason for that. But again, to your point, that takes a little bit of patience. I tell people all the time, you want to go really fast, slowly. Like you want to evaluate things like you
Yes.
said, take in the information, think about it. Does it actually make sense? Because if it doesn't make sense, well, like if your head's going to explode, what are you doing it for? No one's telling you to take that risk, but they're going to be calculated risks worth taking. That property is in the wrong hands. It's not a bad property. It's being mismanaged by someone who's now 81 years old and hasn't really done anything in the house in 14 years. It's not their fault. They're just not capable anymore. So it's time for that transition. And maybe that's an opportunity for you that you shouldn't be afraid of, even though you need new kitchens, you need new bath. Someone needs to change the flooring, but there's an opportunity, right, to change the cash flow and change the expenses once you get through with those adjustments. So I think for a lot of people, it's being able to understand that and see their way through to the other side, getting good mentorship, being around people who have done it, seeing what they really do. I tell people all the time, get started. Go find someone like Amy who does this. Ask her if you could follow her around by investing $1,000 of your money into one of her deals. You just want to watch and learn. You're not trying to tell them what to do. You're not going to get in the way, but you just want to have like a buy-in right to be there all the time and learn and see what they're doing. A lot of people in our business will actually say yes to that. They remember what it was like to sign their first contract, do their first deal. They remember how stressful that was. I do. And helping people with that, I think is a good thing to do. I mean,
Yeah, I think that
Everybody wants to make everything so difficult. And the truth is, if you keep it simple, a lot of times, you know what? It's actually simple. It might not make you a millionaire overnight, but you can get there. And for people, again, if they're willing to put in the time, effort, and energy, they can build themselves something really special for the long term. Long term can be 5, 7 years. It doesn't have to be 30, right? Because long term, people hear it as like, oh my God, the rest of my life, I don't want to do that. But long term isn't like 30 minutes.